Moblins have been around since the very first Zelda, but over the years they've taken a variety of different shapes and forms. So let's go on an adventure through time and see how fast we can touch a Moblin in every Zelda game, starting with the original Legend of Zelda on the NES. Alright, so luckily for us, Moblins are one of the most common enemies in this game. All we have to do is head north and then keep going east, making sure to also touch every Octorok along the way until we can say hello to our very first Moblin. Next we've got Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, and this is another quick one. So let's just leave Zelda to continue her nap and head outside where we can run into this, guy, which brings us into an encounter with some Moblins. So let's quickly touch them. All right, on to A Link to the Past, where we wake up to our good old Uncle Mustachio telling us he'll be back by morning. He did not come back by morning, but now that we have a sword, we can make our way through the castle and defeat this mini-boss using the strongest weapon in the game. Now, I don't know what crime Zelda has committed, but let's free her, I suppose. And once we escort her out of the castle, we can truly begin our Moblin touching quest. So yeah, let's just find a Moblin. There should be one around here somewhere. Excuse me, sir, have you seen any Moblins? So yeah, there's actually no Moblins in this game until you reach Dark World. With that in mind, let's just speed run through the first 3 dungeons of the game, making sure to take out the bosses quickly and efficiently. Definitely not, you know, get like knocked down into a pit and have to run back up, resetting the fight at least 5 times, because that would be super embarrassing. But yeah, after completing those dungeons, grabbing the Master Sword, and then doing some breakdancing with Emperor Palpatine, we're finally teleported into Dark World, where we can touch a Moblin in just under an hour. Link's Awakening is a much simpler one. First, let's get out of bed and say goodbye to Mario before heading down to the beach where we can grab our sword. Then after carefully maneuvering past these spiky balls, we'll head north back through town with plenty of health to spare for our Moblin touching sesh up here in the forest. Onto Ocarina of Time, where we can find our first 3D Moblins. Now, these Moblins are pretty rare because they only appear once we're Adult Link. So in order to touch them, we would normally have to complete the entire Child Link portion of the game, but we can actually save a ton of time with just a few speedrunning tricks. But first we need a sword and a shield, so let's open up this chest and start making our way back, making sure to collect these rupees so we can have enough to buy our shield. Now, instead of doing the whole Great Deku Tree dungeon to be able to leave Kokiri Forest, we're instead gonna head up to the Lost Woods and over to this section here, where we can take advantage of a glitch using Navi to sink to the bottom of this water, which teleports us out to Zora's River. From there, let's make our way out to Hyrule Field and head towards Hyrule Market by crossing this bridge here. So normally to become Adult Link, we would need all 3 spiritual stones and the Ocarina of Time to be able to open the door to the Master Sword. But instead, if we do a very precise setup, we can actually just clip through this wall with a jump slash, allowing us to pull the Master Sword way before we would normally be able to. Now, after a bunch of cutscenes talking to a couple bald guys and a ninja about the fate of the world or whatever, we can start making our way back to... We can start making our way all the way back to the Lost Woods, where after entering the Sacred Forest Meadow, we can finally touch our tall, beefy, 3-dimensional Moblin. Majora's Mask unfortunately does not have any Moblins, so instead we're just gonna touch this rock tree. Over to the Game Boy Color now with Oracle of Ages. In this game, we're teleported into a world filled with talking animals and possessed blue people. But once all the talking animals are erased from existence, we have to resort to talking to trees instead. No, not you too! Come on! Man, it's hard to make friends out here. So instead, let's head back in time, grab a shovel, and head back up to the tree, who is a baby now. And while these two fine gentlemen here may look like Moblins, they're actually called pig warriors. Is that the same thing? Maybe, but if we continue a little further into the first dungeon of the game, we can touch some actual Moblins there. Oracle of Seasons, as you would expect, is pretty similar, but instead of talking animals, this time we've got natural disasters. We've still got talking trees though, and like its counterpart, we can touch some Moblins in the first dungeon of the game. Oop, just give me a second. There we go. Next up, we've got 4 swords. So let's grab our second controller, friend, and hop right in. Now, since the Sea of Trees is randomly generated from several different map layouts, the time it takes to touch a Moblin is very dependent on that. But after a nice minecart ride and some exploring, we can use our friend here as Moblin bait and touch one pretty quickly. Okay, back to 3D Zelda now with Wind Waker. Let's start our Moblin touching adventure by waking up from a nap and quickly heading over to Grandma's house. After she gives us some comfy looking pajamas as a birthday gift, we can celebrate by witnessing a giant bird drop a girl from a surely fatal height. But after investigating and touching some bokoblins along the way, it turns out she's actually alive. And there goes our sister. Goodbye. Anyways, we've got some Moblins to touch, so let's join a pirate crew and sail off on a voyage over to Forsaken Fortress. Now, the security here is pretty tight, but once we sneak by some spotlights and actually head into the fortress, we can encounter our first Moblins of the game. The issue is that these Moblins really don't like being touched, and they will throw a fit if they sense you getting too close. But if we just sit here and stay very still, yeah, I'm gonna count that. Onto the Minish Cap now, where after heading downstairs to say goodbye to Grandpa, we can head outside and begin searching for Moblins. First though, we've got to entertain the princess for a bit by taking her to the fair and talking to all the different vendors. But once we're done with that, let's finally head up to the castle for some kind of a weird ceremony. And we'll just dive out of the way of this magic ball real quick. Oh. Okay, great, we don't have to worry about her anymore. So let's continue by entering a forest and befriending a hat who can make us tiny. That way we can lend a hand to Smurf Village over here and help them out with their goopy sewage problems or something like that. Then after scaling an entire mountain and conducting a very thorough investigation of the lava in this dungeon here, we'll slay a dragon, I guess, and head back down the mountain. Now, naturally, let's learn how to summon a ghost spirit clone. Wait, what were we doing again? Oh, right, Moblins. All right, so now we're entering what I like to call the dark ages of Moblin touching. I don't know what happened, but for some reason, Nintendo either forgot Moblins existed or they just really thought Helmosaurus was gonna be the next big thing. But yeah, there's no Moblins in Four Swords Adventures, Twilight Princess, Phantom Hourglass, and Spirit Tracks. We do have Moblins and bokoblins pretty early on in Twilight Princess, and the DS games both have mini-blins, but these just don't hit quite the same. So that brings us to Skyward Sword. And buckle up, buckaroos, because this one is a doozy. For this run, I decided to go with the HD remaster on the Switch because of the quality of life improvements, aka skipping cutscenes. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. It did take me a bit to reacclimate myself to the controls in this game. For example, during this Loftwing part, I thought I was really bad at flying. No matter what I tried, I just could not get the hang of it. I was like slowing down and randomly looking down. But after struggling with this for an embarrassingly long time, I did eventually grab the bird statue. Thank you. Thank you. It wasn't until after all of that that I figured something was actually very wrong. I realized that this entire time my gyro sensor had been completely off center, and all I had to do to fix it was press Y. But with nothing holding me back now, I finally got to show off some of my combat skills while touching some bokoblins. But we're just getting started on our journey to touch a moblin. So let's make our way into the first dungeon now. And it was at this point that I found myself just really enjoying playing through the game. Even though I am skipping through the entire story, which is like one of the best parts of the game, Skyward Sword has some really fun mechanics. Once you get used to the motion controls, you really start to notice and appreciate all of the cool design choices, the unique fights, the puzzles it enables that you really can't find in other Zelda games. They could have done without this though. But yeah, after slapping around Mr. Tongue Boy over here, we can head back up to the sky and fly over to the Elden Volcano area. Now, it's very important to be careful around here. The last thing you'd want is to accidentally... Okay, well, at least we know there's no moblins in the lava now. And in fact, there's no moblins in this entire area. So let's climb our way up the mountain and into the dungeon where we can climb our way up to the top and eventually make our way to the boss where we can climb. Okay, we did it. All right, back to the sky and on to the next area now. Let's see if there are any moblins here. There were not any moblins, no. So at this point, you might be thinking, Jorts, you've been playing this game for over 4 hours now. Are you sure there's even any moblins in this game? Rest assured, there are. You just gotta trust me. So let's continue our speed run through a quick boss fight with baby Shadow Godzilla over here, then fly through a cyclone filled with dragon birds. And later on, back in Farron Woods, we can enter the spirit world, where after collecting 15 Christmas ornaments, we can finally perform the Moblin summoning ritual, which spawns one literally right next to us. It's really that easy, folks. Okay, over to the 3DS now with A Link Between Worlds. Now, this game is a successor to A Link to the Past, so as you would expect, there are no moblins until we reach this game's Dark World equivalent. So just like its predecessor, let's progress through the first 3 dungeons of the game: the Eastern Palace, the House of Gales, and the Tower of... Oh no. Thankfully though, this one is a lot more forgiving and also made of burgers. Anyways, from there, let's go grab the Master Sword and head back to the castle, where after slapping around Mr. Clown Man for a bit, we can turn into Paper Wall Link and slip our way into Low Rule, where there's a moblin here just waiting to be touched. Next, we've got Triforce Heroes, which is actually a pretty quick one. After running around town for a bit and talking to an interesting cast of characters, let's hop into the level select, where one of the options is Moblin Base. But before we can touch a moblin, first we gotta toss around some creepy Link dolls and complete some puzzles until we eventually reach the main event. Okay, on to Breath of the Wild for the Wii U. Yes, I still play the Wii U version. Now, Breath of the Wild is interesting because this is the first game where moblins transformed into like anteaters or something. To my knowledge, there are no moblins on the Great Plateau, so let's go ahead and activate the first tower and then head back down to the ground to start. Okay, I'm gonna be honest, I zoned out and I thought I could just paraglide down. To actually get the paraglider, we'll need to quickly make our way to the 4 tutorial shrines. And I probably should have put on some pants. Then after efficiently completing all of them, all that's left to do here is climb our way up to the top of the Temple of Time. Okay, I'm stuck. Now let's just have what I'm sure is a super interesting conversation. And did you just change your clothes in front of me? Anyways, he gives us the paraglider, which we can use to fly down and head into this forest here where we can touch a moblin. Finally, we've got Tears of the Kingdom, where after a lengthy intro sequence that results in Zelda falling into an endless pit and Link somehow losing all of his clothes, we begin our final Moblin search high up in the sky. Now, this is maybe my 10th time playing through the intro at this point, so I'd like to think that I'm getting pretty good at navigating through the tutorial island. You know, even incorporating some shortcuts along the way. So yeah, anyways, after touching the magical bean and completing all 4 shrines, we can safely dive headfirst thousands of feet down to the surface. And as we make our way to our final Moblin here, I'd like to give a shout out to my lovely supporters on Patreon. If you enjoy my videos and are interested in some more behind the scenes content, there will be links for you to join both on screen and in the description. Now there's only one thing left to do. And for the final results, here's how long it takes to touch a Moblin in every Zelda game, from slowest to fastest. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like these kinds of videos, it would mean a lot if you subscribed. Alright, I'll catch you in the next one.